Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Ribbon Run hat, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. Please click on the link in the description for right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as a link to the written pattern itself. To make this pattern, I used a USK 6.5mm crochet hook. This one is by Susan Bates. I also used approximately 140 yards of Red Heart Super Saver brushed in 2 colors. I used cream and shale, but of course you can use whichever colors you like. I also recommend having your standard crochet supplies like scissors, stitch markers, and a yarn needle. This hat is sized to fit most teens and adults. Let's take a closer look at the Ribbon Run hat. The Ribbon Run hat is made from the top down. We start with a magic circle and work our way around in flat rounds in a circle, making that nice flat circle. Then, of course, we start working even to make the sides of the hat and continue on through the brim, which uses just a little bit of post stitches. While we're crocheting the hat, we've crocheted in these holes. After making the hat portion, we set it aside and then make this ribbon, which is all just one row of foundation half double crochets. We weave this ribbon through the holes that we've crocheted into the hat, and then when we get to the 2 ends together, we simply sew them together and hide that little seam behind a piece of the hat. It's quite simple to make, but it adds a lot of beauty to the hat itself. So let's go ahead and get started on the Ribbon Run hat. I'm going to begin making my hat with a darker color because it's a little easier to see against our white table here. I start with a magic circle, and I do have a separate tutorial for this on the YouTube channel if necessary. I yarn over my non-hook forefinger twice towards me, insert my hook under both of those loops, pull the furthest loop under the first loop, yarn over, pull through, and now I'm ready to begin crocheting into my ring. I like to start with a chainless starting double crochet, but you can use whichever double crochet substitute you like, a chain 3, a chain 2, and then double crochet, whatever you prefer. I'm going to pull up my loop to the height of a double crochet, secure it with my finger, yarn over with the loop, insert my hook into the magic circle itself, yarn over, pull up through the magic circle, yarn over, pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then finally yarn over and pull through those last 2 loops. That will act as my first double crochet of the ring, or the round rather. Then I work 11 more double crochets right into the ring. So however you want to work that first one is totally up to you. The whole point is to just get 12 double crochets all worked into the ring. Make sure that with each stitch you go into the ring itself and under that tail end. We want to make sure to capture that so that we can close up our magic ring when we're all done. So I'll see you when we've worked 12 double crochets into the ring. So now I've worked 12 double crochets into the ring, and you can see I've captured the tail end in all of them. So to finish up round 1, I take a hold of that tail end and just give it a tug. I do like to stabilize it a little bit with my other hand, which kind of hides the action, but you'll see here I pull it tight. Take your time with it a little bit, and you'll get a nice center tight circle there. This yarn has a little bit of fuzz and halo to it, so sometimes pulling it through takes a little bit of extra muscle. And if you can't get it quite as tight as you like, you can always tighten it up when you go to weave in this end. Just make sure to weave it back and forth in both directions so that your magic circle doesn't come undone. Then of course we need to finish up our round with a slip stitch in the top of your first double crochet or double crochet substitute, chain 3 if that's what you used, however you like to do it. But at the end of round 1, you should have a nice round circle. So the next 4 rounds, that's rounds 2 through 5, are all your standard increases for making a flat circle. So that means for round 2, we start with 2 double crochets in the first stitch and each stitch around. Of course, that means for me, I like to start with that chainless starting double crochet, but you can use, again, whatever double crochet substitute you like for your first one. Just make sure you go back in that stitch for a second double crochet. There we are. And that you then continue to work 2 double crochets in each stitch around. So since we had 12 double crochets in the first round, you should have 24 double crochets at the end of round 2. After that, again, we just continue in our standard increases. So if round 2 is 2 double crochets in each stitch, then round 3 is double crochet in one stitch, 2 double crochets in the next, double crochet in the next stitch, 2 double crochets in the next. I'm having a little trouble talking and crocheting at the same time. I missed my second one in that stitch for round 2 here. But essentially, like I say, we just continue your standard double crochet increases. So we have 12 double crochets in round 1, 24 double crochets in round 2, 36 double crochets in round 3. For round 4, you would double crochet twice in the first stitch and then double crochet in the next 2 stitches after that. Before you work 2 double crochets in the next stitch, 2 double crochets in the stitch after that. So at the end of round 4, you'll have a total of 48 stitches. And finally, at the end of round 5, double crochet in the first couple stitches, then 2 double crochets in the stitch after that, and double crochet the next stitch. In round 5, we break up the increase a little bit so that we don't end up creating a pointy shape for our circle. We break up our increases like that so that we get a nice round shape. So essentially, for round 5, we're working 3 double crochets in between each increase. So 2 double crochets, double crochet in the next 3. We just split that up a little bit, and you can refer to the written pattern for more information on that. Again, this is all just standard circle increases for those first 5 rounds. So at the end of round 5, you should have a total of 60 stitches. Now, that got me through the end here of round 2, so we always want to go back and double check and make sure we had 2 stitches in each round stitch for round 2. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pairs of stitches. So 24 total for round 2. After that, like I say, it's your standard increases all the way through round 5. Then in round 6, we have a more unique increase, so I'll see you when we get to that point. So here I've worked through round 3, and if you look closely, you can see the repeat. 1, then 2, 1, then 2, 1, then 2, all the way around for a total of 36 stitches. We've already talked through rounds 4 and 5, so let's go ahead and jump to round 6. We're going to pretend I've got 60 stitches here and that my circle is a little bit bigger. For round 6, we start again with whatever double crochet substitute you like to make in the very first stitch. So I'll go ahead and make my CSDC right there. There we go. And then we want to double crochet again in that first stitch. Then we are going to double crochet in the next 19 stitches, and then that's our repeat. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, double crochet in the next 19 stitches, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and double crochet in the next 19 stitches. Those 3 increases are all you make in round 6. So at the end of round 6, you should have a total of 63 stitches. Now, if you've decided to adjust the size of this hat, wherever you end up when you finish making your round top of the head circle, if you will, you want to end with a multiple of 7 stitches. So that's why we have this kind of funky round 6 where we're just adding 3 stitches. We want to make sure that when we get to the circumference of the head, we have a number of stitches in that final round that is a multiple of 7, much like 63 is at the end of round 6. Then we'll be ready to work even down the sides. Now at the end of round 6, since we've only increased by 3, you'll notice that it's starting to take on a little bit of a hat shape. Again, yours will be a little bigger, so the hat shape might not be quite as distinct, but it should be cupping up just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. So now we're ready to start working even down the sides, so let's begin round 7. Round 7 is quite simple. We chain 1 and half double crochet in each stitch around. So again, as we work down the sides of our hat, we are going to be working even. So we aren't going to have any stitch increases until we start making our holes. Those get a little funky in the stitch counts, but for the most part, we are just going to be working 1 stitch in each stitch around. So for round 7, again, just chain 1 and half double crochet in each stitch around. And I'll see you when we're ready for round 8. So at the end of round 7, we simply join with a slip stitch to that first half double crochet that we made. For round 8, we're going to be adding a little bit of texture, which you can see in the finished hat right here. So for round 8, we start with a chainless starting double crochet again, but now we're going to work it into the back third loop of the first stitch. Then we're going to continue by double crocheting in the back third loop of each remaining stitch around. So let's take a quick look at our stitches here. You can see here our previous row was half double crochets. if we look at the backs of those stitches, let's go ahead and turn it this way so it's a little easier to see. If you look at the backs of those stitches, you can see right there, let me pull my hook out to make it a little easier yet. Right there on each stitch, there is a horizontal loop. Now, if we were turning our work, working in rows, we would normally insert our hook right there under those top two loops, the top V, leaving that little horizontal loop there that we created with our yarn over unworked. That's part of the stitch. But for this stitch, we're going to be going through that stitch itself. Now, if we were working from this side, we would go this direction through it, but of course, we're actually coming from over here. So let me get my yarn straightened out. And from this angle, we will be going through that loop this way, like so. So let's go ahead and get started on this row together. We're going to start with that chainless starting double crochet. So we pull up our loop and secure it again and yarn over. But now, rather than going under those top two loops, I'm going to very carefully try and find that horizontal loop. For this first stitch, it's always a little trickier. There we go. Yarn over and pull my loop up and through very carefully. There we go. Yarn over and pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and then finish it off by pulling through two. So then I can continue on around. After this, they're usually a lot easier to find. Look for those top two loops, and then look for that horizontal loop right behind them. Insert your hook and do a standard double crochet. We're going to do that all the way around, and that's going to push those top two loops forward towards the outside of our hat, as we can see right here, creating that beautiful texture. When we get to the end, we can just slip stitch to the top of our double crochet substitute. So after round 8, you should have this great little ridge of texture all the way around your hat. Round 9 is simply double crocheting in each stitch all the way around. You know how to do that. So let's move ahead to round 10. This is where we start making the holes in our hat that we will string our ribbon through. For round 10, we start with a chain of 1 and then single crochet in the first 2 stitches. So let's go ahead and make sure we go right in that first stitch. So there's 1 and then 2. Then we begin the repeat that starts with the asterisk if you're following along with the written pattern. We chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you don't want to make these chains super tight. We will be working back into them in the next row. So we chain 5, then we skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll mark the next with my thumb right there, and we single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So I'll go right into that one I marked with my thumb. So there's 1, and then 2, and then 3. And that is our repeat all the way around until just 5 stitches remain. So since I've got a smaller hat here than the full-size hat, let's go ahead and work those together. Chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, oh, my tail end's trying to come up in there. You can go ahead and weave that in whenever you like. Go ahead and get that out of the way. There's 3 single crochets, and we do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. Pull up a little bit more yarn here from my skein. Just like standard Red Heart Super Saver brushed pulls from the center really beautifully. Skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Find that next one. Single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. Let's see, we're about halfway around this tiny little version. I'm curious yours will have a couple more repeats than I will. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4 skipped stitches. And 1, 2, 3 single crochets. I think I've got just 1 or 2 more repeats here before we get down to those 5 remaining stitches. Remember, that's when we stop doing this repeat. So I've chained 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 4, single crochet in the next 3, 1, 2, 3, and let's go ahead and look. On my little hat here, as I suspected, there's just 5 stitches remaining. You can see right there is our first single crochet of this round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are left. So to finish up this last repeat, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip the next 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet in that very last stitch of the round. Then we can go ahead and slip stitch that first single crochet we made, and that is what it should look like at the end of round 10. If you want to go back and count your stitches for round 10, you should have a total of 27 single crochets. For round 11, we start again with the chain 1, and then we half double crochet in those first 2 stitches. So right into those first 2 single crochets from the previous round. There's 1 and 2. Then what we're going to do is half double crochet in the back loop only of each chain, and then half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So essentially, when we come to a chain, we want to half double crochet in the back loop of it, and then when we come to a stitch, we just want to do our standard half double crochet. So let's look at our chains here. When we look at our chains, there's the top 2 loops, and then there's the underneath loop. When we talk about the front loop and the back loop of a chain, or indeed any other stitch, let me get this pulled over my hand here so it's a little easier to see. We're talking about just these top 2 loops of the V. And the front loop is the loop that's always closest to you, the crocheter, and the back loop is the one that's furthest away. It doesn't matter if we're working in rows or rounds, whether we've turned or not, it's always relative to you, the crocheter. So that's your front loop, and that's your back loop. So let me put my hook back here on my stitch, and we'll make these stitches together. I'm going to pull the rest of the hat down here out of the way so it's a little easier to see against our backdrop. We've got that first chain right there. So we're going to yarn over and just go right under that very back loop of the chain. We put our hook right between those top 2 loops. So we catch just that back loop. Then we yarn over and pull up our loop and finish our half double crochet as normal. So for back loop only, the only difference is rather going under those top 2 loops, we go under just the back loop. Other than that, it's a standard half double crochet. So as I say, every time you come to a chain, half double crochet in the back loop only of it, and then every time you come to a stitch, just do a standard half double crochet under those top 2 loops. Half double crocheting under this back loop only gives us just a really nice finished edge here at the bottom of that opening. Of course, when we wear our hat, it'll be the top, but right now it's the bottom of our stitch. So here we are back at some stitches. We just half double crochet in those. And then again, when we get to the next chain section, we'll work in the back loop only. So I'll see you when we get to the end of round 11. So here I am at the end of round 11. You can see I half double crocheted in the back loop of all those chains, and then we had just that one remaining single crochet that I worked a standard half double crochet into, and now I can join with a slip stitch, and we'll be all ready for round 12. But you can see how this has made our first round of holes to weave our ribbon through. It's time to begin our second round of holes in round 12. To begin round 12, we're going to slip stitch in the next 3 stitches. So you can see we slip stitch joined to the first stitch. So we want to go to the next one. So there's 1, and then a second one, and then a third one. There we are. Then we're ready to begin the rest of the round. We chain 1 and we single crochet in the back loop only of the same stitch as the last stitch we slip stitched into. So what does that mean? You can pretend kind of almost like this was a join. We would work back into this as the first stitch. We're going to do the same thing here. But now we're going to single crochet in the back loop only of that stitch. So just like when we worked into those chains, same thing when we work into a stitch, we want to catch just the back loop of those top 2 and then make our single crochet. So that's our first single crochet of round 12. Then we single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. So again, just go right in between those 2 loops at the top, catch just the back one, and single crochet. So there's those. And then we are able to begin our repeat that starts with the asterisk for round 12. We chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip the next 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll put my thumb right there on the next one, and then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 3. So we go right to that next one and find that back loop only, and there's 1, 2, and 3. And then we begin our repeat again. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back loop only, single crochet in the next 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Let's do that a few more times around here. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember to make those nice and big. We will be crocheting back into them. Skip 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back loop only, single crochet in the next 3. Now, if you'd like to make sure that you're landing in the right spot with all of these skipped stitches and whatnot, you'll note that those 3 single crochets land centered above the hole that we made previously. We've got just a couple more to go here. We chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back loop only, single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we continue this all the way around until just 2 stitches remain. Now, but that would be the 2 stitches before those slip stitches. Those will be, there's our slip stitch right back there, so that'll be right there. So let's go ahead. We've got one more repeat here. 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back loop only, single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And if you look, because we had those slip stitches at the beginning, there's really only 2 stitches left here. However, to finish off round 12, what we're going to do is chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to skip those last 2 stitches as well as those slip stitches and come all the way over here to join to that very first single crochet of the round. There we go. So that's how we're able to create that same size opening. We skip the last 2 stitches plus those first 3 slip stitches. And that's what it should look like at the end of round 12. For round 13, we're going to do another round of half double crochet just like we did before, where we chain 1, and every time we come to a stitch, we are going to work a half double crochet right in the top of that stitch. So all of our single crochets here. So there's 2 and 3. And then whenever we come to a chain, we're going to half double crochet in the back loop only of that chain. So just like we did before, all the way around. At the end of round 13, you should be back to having 63 stitches. Now round 14 is just like a round we did before, where we start with our chainless starting double crochet or whatever double crochet substitute we like, and then double crochet all the way around, but in that 3rd loop. Remember the previous round was half double crochet, so now we've got that 3rd loop again. However, just like in round 6, we did a kind of funny little increase of just 3 stitches to get us up to a multiple of 7. Now we're working to get ourselves back to a multiple of 2 so that we're set up for the ribbed brim. So, as I say, you're going to start with your standard chainless starting double crochet or whatever stitch you like to use. You could just chain 3 if that's what you prefer. If you do work a double crochet substitute, try and work it in that back 3rd loop. There we go. And then, like I say, we're just going to double crochet in that back 3rd loop of each stitch around until we get to those very last 2 stitches. In those last 2 stitches, we're going to work a double crochet 2 together, and that will decrease us by 1 and bring us back to 62 stitches. Obviously, I'm not there right now, but let's go ahead and demonstrate the double crochet 2 together in that back 3rd loop. We're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. You'll notice we went into that back 3rd loop again. Then we yarn over, go to the next stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then just yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So a standard double crochet 2 together, but do make sure to work into those that back 3rd loop. So at the end of round 14, you should be down to 62 stitches. So this is what it should look like at the end of round 14. You can see I double crocheted 2 together in those last 2 stitches, but we preserved that little bit of texture all the way around. So now we're ready to make our brim. We start with a chain 1, and then we front post double crochet around the first stitch. So this right here is the stitch that we joined to. So to do that, we yarn over, we come from the front along one side of the post of that stitch, the post being the body of the stitch itself. Take our hook along the back of that stitch and come up on the other side. Yarn over, pull up our loop, and then finish our double crochet as normal. Yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Now we want to make sure to skip over and not work into the top of that stitch. This stitch is considered worked. So then we half double crochet in the next stitch. And thus begins our repeat. Front post double crochet around the next stitch, and half double crochet in the stitch after that. Let's do another one of those front post double crochets together. We yarn over, insert our hook along one side of the post and bring it up on the other, yarn over, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Then half double crochet in the next stitch. Continue like this all the way around for round 15. Round 16 is a repeat of round 15, but it's even a little bit easier. We chain 1 and front post double crochet around the first stitch. Since that was a post stitch, we just slide our hook right behind the post of that post stitch in the previous round. Finish our double crochet and then half double crochet in the top of the half double crochet. So we're just continuing to extend that whole brim down for another round in round 16. No increases. Again, we want to make sure that we stay at 62 stitches all the way around for round 16. For round 17, we're going to make the last round of our hat and finish off our brim. We start with a chain of 1, and now we're going to front post single crochet around the first stitch. So same thing, we go around that post. This time we haven't yarned over first. We just pull up our loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. Then we single crochet in the top of the half double crochet. So again, that's front post single crochet, and then single crochet all the way around. At the end, you can join and break your yarn. Be sure to weave in your ends and then set the hat aside to make the ribbon. To make the ribbon, you'll want to use a contrasting color. I've got the cream, so that's why I've pulled out my purple background here to make it a little easier to see. The ribbon is simply one long row of foundation half double crochets. So for this hat, you want to make a total of 76 foundation half double crochets. Here's how I make them. I start by going ahead and putting a slip knot on my hook. And then I like to chain 2. 1 and 2. Then for the first foundation half double crochet, I yarn over and insert my hook in that underneath loop of the first chain, the one closest to the slip knot. There we are. Then I yarn over and pull a loop up and through. Now I've got my active loop, my yarn over, and the loop I just pulled up through that first chain. This loop that I just pulled up will be the chain at the bottom of my first half double crochet. So to continue the stitch, we yarn over and pull up a loop right through that chain. And now with 3 loops on our hook, we can finish our half double crochet. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's the first one. To make all the rest, let me pull my yarn out from under my arm here. To make all the rest, what we're going to do is yarn over, insert our hook under the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch. We want to make sure to get both of those loops. Should look like the top of a stitch there, but it's at the bottom of the previous stitch. We yarn over and pull a loop up through those 2 loops. And now we find ourselves in the same spot with our active loop, our yarn over, and the chain at the bottom of this stitch. So we yarn over and pull our loop up through that chain, and then we finish our half double crochet. Yarn over and pull through all 3. Let's go ahead and make one more. Yarn over, find the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. That becomes the chain at the bottom of this stitch, so we yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. Continue that until you have a total of 76 foundation half double crochets. Then you can simply break your yarn, but leave a little bit of a tail for sewing the ends of this row together. Now this ribbon isn't obviously long enough to go all the way through the hat, but it's long enough to give us the idea here. I like to start at the back. You can see right there I've left that last tail end. I haven't woven it in yet. And then you can just go ahead and insert your ribbon however you like it. Go ahead and come up and then through the top like that, through the next hole, and then we find the next hole, down through that next hole and up through the next one. The tricky part is trying not to let the ribbon twist at all while you're doing this. Do your best, turn it over and check the inside of the hat to make sure it stays as flat as possible. Go all the way around your hat, and when you've come all the way around through all those holes, let me just pull this through, you'll come all the way back through, will come through this one. Let's see, this one would have gone up here. So this one would have come up here and gone under this one. When you've gone all the way around the hat through those holes, you just bring those two ends together and sew them together. And then if you want to, you can tack that down behind another part of the, the actual hat itself if you want to, or you can just sew it together really nicely and let it float there. Let's take a look at the finished hat here. You can get a little better idea of how that works. You can see here, we just went through those loops. You could go either direction, whichever you prefer. It doesn't really matter. And then in the back, which I believe was somewhere around back here, I sewed those two loops together. Let's see. I did tack them down right here. Here's our ending. See, once it's all put together, it's actually really hard to find. You can see right there are the ends of my ribbon. And I just took a little tack through the back of this section right here to hold it in place. The rest of it is free floating through the hat. So you can see right there, it's important to just take your time and weave it through. Sew in those ends, and you'll be all finished with your very own ribbon run hat. And that's how to crochet the ribbon run hat. Be sure to go to mooglyblog.com to get the free pattern for the ribbon run hat, as well as the matching ribbon run scarf. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.